Hi, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today we're going to be working on this RYOBI GM-40 baitcaster. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I just did this reel just today, but my video came out so poorly that I'm going to reshoot it again. So when it comes to cleaning and everything else in here, you're not going to see a whole lot. We're going to take it apart, service it, lubricate it, put it all back together. But there's not a whole lot going on, because we just did it. So let's start off by taking off the handle. You do that by removing this screw here. Not with that screwdriver. Move the cover cap. Now we're going to remove this nut. It's a 10 millimeter. Remove the handle. Remove the tension washer. Notice that it's curved, and that curve goes face down against the star drag adjuster. Okay. Next, we're going to remove that sleeve, and that's all we can take off at this moment. We've got 3 screws to remove. This number 1 Phillips will not work. You're going to need a micro screwdriver for removing these screws. We're going to take out 1, 2, 3 screws. And then we got to take off this knob right here. So that's another screw. Now that screw has got a locking washer on it. And that screw holds on this little tiny knob right here. Okay, just pop this up. With those 3 screws removed, see if they'll fall out. The small one, there's 3 different sizes here, or 2 different sizes. The small one goes up here on the top. The 2 long ones go here and here. And this one in the front always seems to want to catch. Alright. Then the cover comes off, and we've got the screw out. There's nothing inside that cover to look at. Nothing we need to worry about. Alright. Now, I shot this before, and what happened when I shot the video is I pointed all these different parts out to you, and they were all off camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in with it still up there. See if we can get it to, and I'm going to keep the reel this time in position and just simply rotate it. And I'm going to try to explain everything by looking up at the camera. Alright, so what we're looking at for this reel is this gear up front. This one goes to your worm gear. Alright. This gear back here, this is your pinion gear. Okay, this one goes to your spool. And this gear here, this is your main gear. And it's driven, and inside this main gear are the drag washer, the drag washer. Alright, so we're going to set that down right there. Off camera, of course, I did it again. Alright, now I'm going to start pointing things out to you so that you can see them. Okay, first off, we've got this hard washer right here on the shaft. Alright, we're going to take that one off. Then you've got this cog. This cog has got, can you see it? Yeah. Let's back it out just a little bit. Alright, there we go. This cog right here has the anti-reverse dog in it. This anti-reverse dog has no spring on it. It simply operates by friction. Okay? When you put it on, it slides right in between those 2 plates right there. Can we see it? Yeah, it slides right in between those. I'll get the screwdriver out of the way. Slides right in between these two plates right here, and that operates. Now as it rotates around, the cog goes this way and rotates around. When it tries to go back the opposite way, that friction pulls it in off of the stud and locks it in place so it can't reverse. All right, we're going to set those two down. Next are these two springs. Can we see them both? Let's see. Let's rotate this way and see if we can see them all. All right. Yes. Okay. These two springs are your yoke springs. They just slide onto these two studs. Like that. Okay. And then we've got the yoke. The yoke holds the pinion gear. You slide that off, the yoke should come, the pinion gear should come with it. All right. The only thing that's going to leave at this point is, turn around this way so you can see it. You've got this cog right here which has this spring attached. Spring comes over here, goes from this point to this point, and that's going to apply tension right here on this lever. And what that's for is to reset the button when you push it in to disengage the spool. Okay? Now there's no need to take any of this off at this point. All right, this yoke can go on only one way. If you look at it, the pinion gear slides into it, and you could put it on this way or flip it upside down and put it on this way, but if you try to put it on that way, the pinion gear will not align, because when you put it on that way, you put the pinion on, slide it on, and now these posts won't fit into the yoke. So if you find yourself trying to put it together and it doesn't fit, it's because you've got it upside down. All right, take it off, flip it over the other way. There we go. The yoke is back installed. Next goes the springs for the yoke. They're installed. We have to put the anti-reverse dog and cog back in. Okay. There is a keyed area on that cog. There we go, and it goes in like that. Now it can rotate like so, but when it tries to reverse, see how it pulls in? Let's bring it this way. Okay. It allows it to rotate. This is when you're winding. When you go to reverse it, boom, see how it pulls that cog in and locks it? That's what it's supposed to do. Next comes the hard washer. Slide it down. Okay, we're going to add just a little bit of grease. I've already greased it, but we're going to do it anyway just so that you know that we're putting a little grease in there. And we're going to put a little bit of grease on the pinion gear. And then we're ready to put the main gear back in and make sure that it meshes with that pinion gear. Now let's go ahead and put this keyed washer on. It didn't want to slide down when it was on the gear. All right, there we go. Next comes the one single flat washer by itself. And these two. The two keyed tension washers. There. With those in place, the only part left to put back on here is going to be this gear that goes to the worm gear. Okay? When you put that in and the worm gear rotates, it's going to move up and down. There is, let's go ahead and rotate the worm gear. Okay, slide that on. We'll rotate this. Okay, as it rotates, see the worm gear rotates? All right, this worm gear was very, very dirty when I took it apart earlier. It was completely black, and the worm gear was binding as you would wind. And so what I did, rather than try to take it off, because here's what I found. See this cap right here? When you take this cap off and remove it to get to the pawl is jammed in there. It doesn't want to come out. But I tell you what I do want to do that I forgot to do the first time through. Let's go ahead and pull this out. If this was one of the pawl caps that had the washer inside it, you'd have to watch for that. But this one isn't. So let's go ahead and take the pawl cap out. I want to add a drop of oil onto this pawl. There. So when I put the pawl cap on, that can slowly, over the years, months, days, whatever, it can start working its way into that pawl and hopefully loosen it up, because it is jammed in place. But it works perfectly fine. So I wasn't willing to put a lot of force onto trying to get it out. No sense in ruining an operational reel just because we can't get one thing out. If something's working and functional, don't tear it all apart just so you can take something apart. All right. Now, as we rotate this, now that's working back and forth just fine. Now we're going to add, pick it back up, don't drop it. Put it all back together. Now we're going to put a few drops of oil onto the worm gear. Now, back in my old days, I would have used grease on that, but I have since learned that grease tends to collect dirt in there, and oil works a lot better for it. So rotate it back and forth, clean it up good, get it working. All right, that's ready to go back together. All right, let's put the cover back on and make sure everything's fitting where it's supposed to be. We've got the gear on, we've got the gear on. We're lined up properly. All that looks good. Slide this down. All right, notice that it appears to be spring loaded and bounces back up. Well, it's because it is spring loaded. It has those two springs for the yoke in there. What you really want to watch for isn't whether or not it bounces back if you let it go, but whether or not you've closed it up enough to seal this line. And we did. So we're going to put in the short screw at the top. Go ahead and tighten that one down. Okay. The two long screws, one goes in the front and one goes in the back here. Remember, you're screwing these into a graphite frame. This front one's actually going into this steel post right here, but you still don't want to over tighten them. Okay, that leaves us back to this switch assembly. It's got a keyway on it so that you can put it in the right configuration. All right, we've got it in place. We're going to install the locking washer and then the screw and snug it up. Okay, that's good. Okay, now we're ready to reinstall the sleeve that we had laying out. Slides down inside. On top of that is going to go your star adjuster for your drag. Make sure not to cross thread this. This is one of the easiest parts on any reel to get messed up from cross threading. So, and it's hard because it's so flat. It seems to be hard and it wants to go on the wrong way. Once you get it on, you'll know it. If it's crooked, it won't go on properly. Don't force it. Now once you've got it down, or it's screwed most of the way down, if you need to hold it using the handle to apply the proper tension, you can do that like this. You just slip the handle on and tighten it down. That's fine. But make sure that you're almost all the way down before you attempt that. Okay, now we're ready to put, where are we at? Can we see? All right, we're ready to put this tension washer back on. Put on the handle. Install the nut back on. And again, don't get it cross-threaded. It should screw almost all the way down by hand. Okay, and you've got that done, you should be able to put the cap back on. Look at it, make sure the hole's lined up. If it is, go ahead and install your screw to hold the cap on. All right, that brings us down. Now we should be functional, and we are. We push the button. Okay, we're going to take a minute to come back to this now. Get in here a little closer where we can see what's going on. All right, let me show you what can happen when all this is out of configuration. See this cog right here? Now this cog has a purpose in life, and it's to release this button and to do the anti-reverse. But notice when the button is pushed and you rotate the handle, it's going to rotate this cog, which is going to push on this lever right here. All right, notice that that lever is pushing back on this collar that sits underneath the pinion. As that pushes back, it now trips back, releasing the handle, the button, and sets you back in motion again to lock the pinion back in. See how the pinion goes down? Now when you push the button, it pushes up, it shoves the yoke up, and you say, yeah, it shoves the yoke up. These are going to be held in place. Now this is all going to be popped back down again when you rotate the handle again. Notice that little cog, as it rotates, it pushes this lever, this collar, around. There we go. And that releases these two ramps right here. These two ramps are what hold the yoke up, which causes this to be disengaged. What had happened for me is this little piece right here that pushes back, this had rotated around and gotten in front right here. With it in front, it couldn't engage because this little key wave here couldn't engage that. See how that comes around? Now when you push the button, see how that comes forward and goes into the cog? It wasn't able to go in there because it was over here. All right, so make sure that this is in the proper configuration for this collar right here. Now when you rotate it, boom, it kicks it back. There you go. All right, it took me a while to figure out what was wrong with it. This reel has a flip mode right here. See this little switch right here? Well, when you flip it into this position, that's flip mode. And what that does, it allows you, when you push the button, in your middle of your cast, you can go ahead and push the button as you're casting, and as you push it in, it releases the spool. When you let go of it, the button comes up and the spool locks back in, and you can start winding it back in. All right, that's flipping mode. In normal mode, you flip it over to here, comes out, spool locks. When you rotate it, it locks the spool back in. Good to go. What was happening is the button was jamming. Okay, in flip mode. When you go to here and you flip it down, it wasn't coming back up. Now I had taken it apart and lubricated it several times, and it still wasn't doing it. But after a good hour of fiddling with it, now it's working perfectly. So basically what I had to do was take all this apart, and I think it's probably all in the videos, but I had to take all this apart and the mechanism and remove the collar that fits down inside by the spool. When I took that out, it was all completely dry underneath that collar. The collar is supposed to rotate inside on the spool back and forth, and it was unable to. So when I took it off, I was able to add grease and put it back together. But when I put it back on, I got that one cog off that I showed you a second ago. And that cog prevented it from re-engaging when you were in regular mode and you pulled it out. When you went to lock it back, that cog was not in the right position, so it wasn't allowing it to lock the spool back in. Now, I've got everything back in properly. Now it's working fine. So we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on, and we're going to call this a fixed reel. I was just about to give up on it. I was thinking maybe it was beyond my capability. I even contemplated sending it over to Dennis at Second Chance Tackle to let him use it as one of his Why Reels Fail videos, but it eventually got all the lubrication into all those parts that it needed, and the button is now operating pretty well. It does twist slightly. If you look at it, it's worn. From years of use without any real lubrication in there, it has worn the sides of this. So that's why it's going to fail eventually. We've got it well lubricated for now, but eventually that's going to fail because that's wearing in there. That graphite button is wearing inside the graphite case because it had no lubrication. I guess as long as it stays lubricated, it probably won't wear anymore, but it's got a lot of wear. See how loose that button is? It's an old reel. It's been around a long time. But that is the RYOBI GM-40, ready to be put away until it's ready to go fishing another day. It looks like it's had quite a few days of fishing already. So thank you. If you like what you saw here, which I'm not real sure how anybody could, but if you like what you saw here, please hit the like button. If you didn't like it, by all means, tell me about it and tell me why. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button, and I think there's a notification button for notifying you when I send out the next video. Tomorrow's is going to be the Eagle Claw 7070 spinning reel, and I'll see you there.